So in this segment, we're going to be talking about. Oh, sorry, let me just load up the article. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Tier 4 and London and parts of the southeast. Sorry, most of the southeast will be in Tier 4, and Christmas is cancelled for them. So millions of people across southeast England will no longer be able to mix with other households at Christmas with a new Tier 4 level of COVID restrictions. And we could cut to our resident expert on surprises, Nick Diaz, but we don't need to because we've been tracking this for a while, and this is not a surprise to anyone. It's just how late in the day that he's announced this. So under tier 4, sorry, new restrictions southeast in tier 3. So I don't know if he's actually talked about tier 4 here, Lewis Goodall. What we can see from this is people must stay home, retail to close, indoor gyms, leisure to close, personal care service to close, work from home, no entering or leaving tier 4, so you can't enter an area. So if you commute, you're basically stuck. No staying overnight. It's just this is bizarre what's going on here. And Boris Johnson, he should have took the decision to keep London in a lockdown in tier 3. Once the last lockdown ended in December, start of this month, and he didn't. He did that because, according to the Mail on Sunday and the Sunday Times, he did that because in tier 2 they'll lose 50,000 jobs, but in tier 3 they're going to lose 500,000 jobs. Right? How many did you lose in a tier 4? Go, because I can tell you it's more than 500k. So instead of him making the right decision at the time, the idiot, he didn't do it. And we can see from the COVID numbers here, we went into lockdown around the start of November. It was announced on the 1st of November, I believe, and it was official on the 5th. So we can see here 33.8 cases and 34.5 cases 1st of November, 33.8 on the 5th of November. Where are we at now? 34.4, so we're about the same level as we were before. So we're at national lockdown levels. Obviously, some areas are far higher than others. But another huge issue, which I could do a separate video on, but it ties into this one really well, is that the average occupancy for hospital beds is very high right now. We're looking at around the high 80s/90 percent mark on hospital bed occupancy. East of England at 90.5%, and the lowest, the Midlands, is at 87.5%. And if you look into specific areas, I think that's pronounced Rithington, no idea. Wigan and Leigh, 97.8% bed occupancy. And this, bear in mind, is after the NHS has stopped, routine ops and other certain treatments to do this. In order to deal with COVID, and you can see here they're being absolutely overwhelmed. My heart goes out to our first responders, our healthcare workers, because they're going to have a very rough time. Not like they've had an easy time since this pandemic started, or since this party took over. Back in 2010 under the coalition government, they've had a rough time, and I worry very much about healthcare workers. The mental health, we've talked about that a lot on this channel, and if any sort of healthcare workers are watching my video, much respect, and leave a comment if you are watching this, and let me know how it's going. We can see here that we're looking at national lockdown levels again. It's going to decimate businesses because the lack of business support is going to lack. People's mental health is going to be badly affected by this, and it's very concerning. Had Bojo made the decision to go into a tier 3 lockdown for London, perhaps would be in a better situation now. You can say I'm being capped in hindsight, but that's not a hard one to figure out. We saw a divergence of sort of what's going to happen during the Christmas week from the different parts of the UK. Wales, I think, being the first group to kind of diverge from England because their COVID rates are very high right now. And so essentially, if you're not in a tier 4 area, you can meet people on Christmas Day. That's a massive U-turn from what the government had announced, which was like a 4 or 5 day Christmas, and then they backtracked saying that just because you can see people for 5 days doesn't mean you should, and now they're saying you can only go for Christmas Day. And so now we're going to see the smug man essentially project that Keir Starmer, he's we'll watch this clip and we'll go back through it.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish he'd have the guts just to say what he really wants to do, which is to cancel the plans people have made and cancel Christmas. I think that's what he's driving at, Mr. Speaker. He's looking a bit blank. I think that's what he's driving at. But I can tell him that as of today, and just this morning, there is actually, as I say, unanimous agreement across all the UK government, across all the devolved administrations, including members of all parties, Mr. Speaker, including his own, that we should proceed in principle with the existing regulations.
That was the 5-day Christmas thing. We should proceed, yeah?
Mr. Speaker, because we don't want to criminalise people's long-made plans, Mr. Speaker, but we do.
This is phenomenal. This is such projection, and the worst thing is this is probably the biggest government U-turn. This is worse than the one they made with Rashford and free school meals. The only way they could do a bigger U-turn is if Boris Johnson came out and said no, we want to stay in the EU as we were before the Article 52 was voted in. That's the only bigger U-turn they could make right now. I've doubt Boris resigned and said no, I never want to be prime minister anyways. They're the only two bigger U-turns that you could do.
We do think it's absolutely vital that people should, at this very, very tricky time, exercise a high degree of personal responsibility, especially.
See, that's the point there. What he wanted to do was the giant bold patch there, by the way. What he wanted to do was to, have people meet for Christmas, be happier, and then he's going to blame it on them. That's what he wants, saying take personal responsibility. So if you go out to meet people and they catch COVID because of you, that's on you, which is partly true. But at the same time, the reason why we have these restrictions is because we know people aren't responsible. That's why we have rules in place, because we know people aren't responsible. So this man, if it's the case that he wants people to be personally responsible for their actions, then he should not have put people in tier 4. We shouldn't even have restrictions. That's basically what he's saying here.
Especially when they come into contact with elderly people, and avoid contact with elderly people wherever possible. And that is how, by being sensible and cautious, not by imposing endless lockdowns or cancelling Christmas, as he would appear to want to do. That's the only implication I can draw from what he said.
He's like the pantomime villain.
Mr. Speaker, unless he wants to announce some other idea, that is the way we will continue to work together to keep this virus under control, to defeat it and take the country forward.
Lol. So basically what we have here is Boris Johnson with a huge amount of projection, saying that Keir Starmer wants to cancel Christmas when Boris Johnson is the guy who cancelled Christmas. It's, this clip is one of the best things I've seen on the internet this year, from a politics point of view. So we're going to listen to it back again a bit more, and this is probably one of the biggest U-turns I've ever seen.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish he'd have the guts just to say what he really wants to do, which is to cancel the plans people have made.
The worst thing is, right, they could have announced that, don't make plans, we're going to only do this Christmas thing for 3 days. It could be cancelled, but he said, guaranteed this is going to happen. You can go see family members for Christmas. And that's what made this thing, like, he built this, this tower so high, and it's crumbled so badly. And, I can see a lot of people being angry that they can't see their family members, and rightfully so. But what more can we say about this? This was going to happen. We can see the trend from what the trend was going up. 9th of December to the 12th of December. You can see that, the numbers were constantly rising, and people meeting for Christmas was going to become unlikely, especially because this isn't flattening. That's where the numbers flatten there, and then you see hopefully a downward slope, and we ain't seeing it. And I'm not sure if people met up for Christmas, for next week, it would have been absolute chaos. And this man is the king of clown mistakes, because we're going to watch this one more time. Sorry, I'm putting you through this, but one more time, we're going to see this man's absolute hubris here, where he's saying that Keir Starmer wants to cancel Christmas, and now he's become the man who's cancelled Christmas because of his irresponsibility and his actions. Him not giving companies the financial support they need in order to have a proper shutdown, him not giving people the support they need to stay home, him not telling people enough to stay home, him keeping that joker going to Barnard Castle. That's him. This is a lot of this pandemic is on him. You can argue it's China's fault for lying in the first place. It's true. China do share a large portion of the pandemic, the damages caused, but each country was responsible for their response, and we've seen a lot of countries have a lot of good responses compared to our awful response from this government, who have continuously underfunded the NHS, and once we've needed it the most, it's barely coping, because these conservative governments have done this. This isn't one person doing this. This is an ideology, and so that's the point I stress, that you can't kill a hydra. You have to get rid of the whole thing, because if you get rid of one head, you get rid of one leader, another one pops up, and arguably he's worse than David Cameron, because at least Cameron did some homework. I would wager that if Cameron was in charge now, we'd be in a better position, not by a massive amount, but would be in a better position, no doubt, because at least the man does his homework. This man does no homework. So we're going to watch this a bit more.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish he'd have the guts just to say what he really wants to do, which is to cancel the plans people have made and cancel Christmas. That's really.
So yeah, I want to see this clip played endlessly. Because this is the man who's cancelled Christmas. This is the man who, because of his arrogance and his indecision here, specifically when it comes to where is it, London being put in a tier 2 instead of a tier 3 area, among other mistakes. This is the man who has done this. So I want you to remember that. Whoever's watching this, I want you to remember that Bojo is the one who cancelled Christmas. And I want you to remember that it was this Conservative Party who didn't take the precautions in place to deal with this properly. That's what I want you to remember. And you can argue other countries are going through lockdowns, but in other countries, Germany, you can't see your loved ones during Christmas. You can do it. In this country, if you're in a tier 4 area, you can't. And so I want people to be responsible. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to tell you don't see your family over Christmas. If that's what you want to do, then do it. But we do have personal responsibility here. So what my advice is, just be careful wherever you do. Don't stay too long. And hopefully you'll whatever happens, once this vaccine gets rolled out, hopefully you can see your family members next Christmas. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.